I saw quite a few new projectors at the Consumer Electronics Show this year, but one of them in particular stuck out from the rest. The V10 from 4Movie won a CES 2023 Innovation Award and not only claims impressive specs like a 2500 ANSI-lumen LED light source, 4K resolution, HDMI 2.1, 12 milliseconds of input lag, and a basically unheard of 240 Hz refresh rate. But most importantly, the 4Movie rep at the booth said that when the V10 is released in the US later this year, we can expect an MSRP of between $800 and $1,000, which if true would absolutely break the projector market since it would be essentially half the price of similarly spec'd projectors currently on the market. In fact, I was so intrigued by the V10 that when I got back to my hotel room in Vegas, I immediately hopped on AliExpress to get the Chinese version, which was released in September. And in about a week, the Chinese version of the V10 arrived at my door. Even with the reseller's fee, shipping, and importing, the 4Movie V10 was still only $1,173, which definitely gives me hope for the sub $1,000 US release. But can the specs possibly be as good as 4Movie claims? Let's start out with the brightness. The ANSI lumen is supposed to be a highly standardized way of measuring projector brightness so that consumers can easily compare between brands and models. And to measure ANSI lumens, you collect a lux reading from 9 standard points, you average those readings, and you multiply by the screen size in square meters. Unfortunately, it is impossible for me to know the exact conditions and equipment that every manufacturer uses in their testing, so the best that I can do is to make sure that my own methods stay standardized throughout all of my testing. And when I measured the 4Movie V10's brightness, I came up with just 1,391 ANSI lumens, which is only 55% of its advertised brightness. For reference, here are the other ANSI brightness measurements that I took when I reviewed similar projectors back in June of 2022 compared to their advertised ANSI lumens. And you can see that all of my measured values were less than the manufacturer's, but the sub $1,000 4Movie V10 fits somewhere in between the XGIMI Horizon Pro and the Nebula Laser 4K as far as brightness. So next, let's look at the picture quality, resolution, and refresh rate claims. Like 99% of 4K projectors on the market, the 4Movie V10 uses a 1080p DLP chip with pixel shifting to create a 4K image by rapidly drawing 4 subpixels for each frame of video. That means that if you're watching content in 4K 60 Hz, each small mirror in the DLP chip needs to draw 240 pixels per second to generate an image, which I guess you could technically call 240 Hz. To test the image quality, I projected a 120-inch screen in an ambient light controlled room and I recorded it with my Sony a7 IV with these settings. And the image looked extremely good with crisp details, no screen door effect, and excellent focus uniformity. The contrast and black levels weren't amazing, but they were definitely not bad, and were easily the best that I've seen at this particular price point. As far as refresh rate claims, I am highly skeptical for a few reasons. First, the 4Movie V10 uses a MediaTek M9669 chipset, and even though that is the current top-of-the-line flagship SoC for MediaTek, it clearly lists a maximum refresh rate of 120 Hz. And second, in my testing, even though I was able to set the resolution of the V10 to 1080p 240 Hz using my graphics card, after recording the screen at 240 frames per second, I couldn't see any difference between the 1080p 120 and the 1080p 240 signals. But I guess being able to properly accept and display a 240 Hz signal is still kind of impressive. Moving on to the input lag claims, 12 milliseconds is extremely fast, and would put the 4Movie V10 near the very top of the gaming projector market. But unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, I could not replicate that 12 millisecond number. I used the industry standard Leo Bodner lag tester in every different resolution and refresh rate combination that I could think of. I put the V10 into its specific gaming mode, I turned off every advanced picture setting, and I even tried different HDMI versions, ports, and cables. But the fastest input lag measurements I could get were 34.7 milliseconds at 4K 60 and 34.9 milliseconds at 1080p 60. 1080p 120, where most gaming projectors have their lowest input lag, was much worse at 51 milliseconds. Don't get me wrong, 34.7 milliseconds is not bad at all, and it would be more than acceptable for most games, but it's still almost 3 times more than the 12 milliseconds claimed by 4Movie, and is the most disappointing thing about the V10. But there's still a lot to love about the 4Movie, starting with the sound quality. The V10 has a 30-watt 2.1 channel sound system, meaning 2 separate 7.5-watt left and right speakers and a separate 15-watt subwoofer. And it is without a doubt the best sounding projector that I have ever tested.
Don't worry. We're not gonna turn it off. He's cheating. Definitely. Claude, I hope you fixed that surge.
These lifestyle projectors are meant to be able to be moved from room to room, and no matter where you put the V10, you are going to have plenty of volume and excellent sound quality. Another thing I noticed was the lack of any ambient sounds coming from the V10. There was no fan noise, no power supply whine, or color wheel sounds. 4Movie claims that the noise level is less than or equal to 28 decibels, which is below the noise floor of every room in my house. This is a projector that you could definitely put directly behind your head and forget it was there. I also really like the look of the V10, which is just slightly larger than an Amazon Echo Studio and could easily be at home on a coffee table or sofa table. Even though the downward firing sub takes up most of the bottom, the projector still does have 3 mounting holes for a traditional ceiling mount if you wanted to go that route. The V10 is running Fang OS, which is built on Android 9 and includes time of flight focus, auto keystone, screen fit, and object avoidance. And although I can't really comment on the final international software since this is obviously the Chinese version, you can probably expect similar compatibility to other Fang OS devices like the WiMAX Go Advanced when it comes to Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, and YouTube TV compatibility, which is to say that it won't be great and you'll probably want to use an external streaming stick like an Amazon Fire TV Max. It is entirely possible that the US version of the 4Movie V10 will have different firmware that increases the refresh rate, lowers the input lag, and boosts the brightness, but it's worth noting that the listing for the Chinese version makes all the same claims as the US version. Unfortunately, I think that the 4Movie overpromises and underdelivers on its advertised specs, but the question is whether it would still be the best value in projectors even with the more realistic measured values paired with its sub $1,000 MSRP. So here's a chart with all the 4K projectors that it will be directly competing with and my personal tests of those units. You can see that the 4Movie V10 outperforms the XGIMI Horizon Pro in basically every category for half the MSRP and even less than the lowest street price that I've ever seen the XGIMI Horizon Pro. The overall best performer in this category of LED and laser projectors remains the Dangbei Mars Pro 4K, which has over 2,000 measured ANSI lumens, great picture quality, and a sleek look for a street price of around $1,500. And for pure gaming performance, nothing beats the BenQ X3000i's sub 10 millisecond response time at 1080p 120. But from a price versus performance standpoint, the 4Movie V10, even with its reduced real-world specifications, seems to be poised to be the best value on the market when it's released in the US, assuming they are able to hit their sub $1,000 price point. I did put a link down in the description for the seller that I used to get my Chinese version, but I would absolutely recommend waiting for the official US release, not only for better pricing, but also hopefully better performance and the US version of Fang OS. If you can't wait and you need a projector right now, I've also got Amazon links for all the other projectors that I talked about in this video, and my current personal recommendation is still the Dangbei Mars Pro 4K. Like all the videos on my channel, this review is unsponsored and unbiased, so if you appreciate the time, effort, and money it takes me to make a video like this, I'd appreciate if you could use those links, since as an Amazon affiliate, I do earn a small commission on the sale at no cost to you. Thank you so much to my awesome patrons over at Patreon for your continued support of my channel, and if you're interested in supporting my channel, please check out the links down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching The Hookup.